So we were just kind of in denial, but we could tell Dr. Schaefer knew something was wrong. So he sent us from the clinic straight over to Mercy. So they did, you know, test after test after test. They did an MRI and an EKG and lots of blood work, and they did a muscle biopsy, and it wasn't until they did the EMG, which is what gave us the initial diagnosis. From that little test, they could tell, you know, she wheeled over and told us that she was sorry to tell us, but that our son had spinal muscular atrophy. And we were like, okay, what's that? You know, we were thankful to have a diagnosis because this whole time we had no idea what it was. And that's when she told us that she's sorry, but he wouldn't live to see his first birthday. And at that point, you know, it's just a punch to the stomach, and you're just like, wow. And so that's when, that's the beginning of our real journey with Miller and spinal muscular atrophy, and where things kind of turned around for us.
That turnaround for any family is devastating, but Meredith and Patrick, being strong in faith, family, and friends, were determined their little angel's fight would not end in death. So that's why they created the Miller-McNeil Woodruff Foundation to help find a cure and support other families affected by this disease.
Obviously, you know, they lost their little boy, and they don't ever want to forget him. They don't want other people to forget him, and they don't want other families to go through what they had to go through. But people who get involved with it, most people know the story. Meredith blogged through the whole journey with Miller, his whole 87 days, and people have read that and they know about it, and they get calls and letters and emails and from people they've never even met that are touched by it and want to be a part of it. And when Miller had SMA, we didn't know anything about it, and now, unfortunately, we're starting to hear of more cases, and people rely on them because they've been such a help to everyone. They get contacted to help, you know, other families and people going through the same challenges that they went through.
Two of those families are right here in Arkansas. The Alexanders and Dillons both were faced with tragic news to learn their baby girls were diagnosed with SMA.
SMA, it's scary. It's very scary to have your child diagnosed with something that is, you know, can rob them of so much. And it was devastating to get that diagnosis, and very scary just because you don't know. It's so complex and so much going on with it, and it was just, it's scary to be diagnosed with that. I'm sure as it would be with any other disease, but I mean, for your child to be diagnosed with something that is going to cut her life short and her not be able to do the same things that, you know, other kids can do, it makes me sad sometimes, but then I just, you know, try to look at it the best and be positive about it, and what can we do to make her, you know, all of our lives better and with what we've been dealt.
Just, you don't even know what to think. Sometimes I still don't, you know, it's your daughter. You just can't put that into words, so. Yeah, you have this vision of how things are gonna be, and of course she immediately had my number and still does and always will, you know. You just have to, you just step up and go forward. That's what I do. I just deal with it and try to make sure our family's taken well care of, you know.
It's all new, you know, so it seems so new to us still. I mean, it was just 6 months ago when we just got her diagnosis, and still learning, but we're happy to be a part of the Miller Foundation, and that they're so grateful that they're helping us, and not just us, but other families as well, and working towards a cure. It's just, I don't see how they do it. It's awesome because I feel overwhelmed just with what I have, you know, on my plate, and how Patrick and Meredith do what they do after losing Miller. I don't see how, you know, it just seems beyond what I could imagine. Meredith called me, I think it was the next day after we got her diagnosis, and just, she's very sweet, and very caring person, and I'm very glad to have her, you know, in our life and help us through this journey. And it's nice to be able to be a part of a foundation that is so helpful and has helped us right from the beginning of Maggie's diagnosis, you know.
The doctors kind of gave us a doom and gloom kind of, well, she's really doing good for her diagnosis because she's probably not going to last till 2. So it was really heartbreaking to hear that from the doctor and then to walk out with kind of this no hope feeling. It was just a devastating diagnosis, and we talked a lot before the diagnosis because we were so concerned. So then when they actually said that, it was just kind of heartbreaking.
I didn't expect to have a diagnosis that day, so I just went and I just happened to call my mom and say, let's go. When he walked in with the diagnosis, it was, that's what I was afraid of, but this is it. There is no hope. He told me that she should not have lived past the year-old. I decided not to call him, to wait till we got back to Conway to let him know, just because I knew it was over. We didn't actually know any different for over a year. We just kind of lived by the seat of our pants and just did what we could. It was gut-wrenching. It was a stab. It hurt a lot. It hurt to walk outside, to go to a park, to see kids running around, knowing that she would never be able to do that, never be able to go and get on a slide by herself. It was really, really painful.
Yeah, we really want to do anything to be able to help, to try to find a cure. Even if it might not be able to help Zoe right now, it could help the generations to come that are looking for just answers. And
it's not going to get easier as life goes. It's actually going to get harder. But anything that we can do as a family to support other families going through it and to hopefully help them find a cure so other families don't have to get that bad news of your child may not live to see 3. Your child may not live to see 20. Nobody really knows. There's not a life expectancy. So knowing that we can be a part and help because we have a fairly healthy child.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening just to see how much their community had came together to support SMA, and being able to see Bradley there was just amazing because we hadn't encountered any older kids with SMA. We had only seen online about younger kids, and
it was just amazing to finally meet someone who is in college, knowing that, okay, we can live life with this. We can stretch for her having straight A's. We can look forward to her going to kindergarten and going to college and doing everything like a normal child.
This affects real families in local communities. And what the Woodruff Foundation has done is balance the two sides of research for the future that's going to help everybody to what can they do for today for local families in the community here.
So we went to California to Disney, and that was the best experience in the world. So after we came back, Meredith asked me to let her know how it went, and I said every family with SMA should have to attend this. Whether you've had a child, know a child, everyone should get to go.
Various things that the Woodruff Foundation has done. One specifically is to help families from Arkansas attend the annual conference that we put on. It's an annual event, and last year was in Washington, D.C., and the Woodruff Foundation actually supported 22 individuals from the local area here, the local state, to travel to attend this conference. And it's an opportunity that really tells these families what's going on. They meet the researchers that are developing the new therapies, but it tells these families that they're not alone. It's a conference where we have about 1,500 people from around the world, around the country, and so families that are local here get to meet other SMA families. They realize they're not alone in this fight. They're not going through something that they're isolated. it brings them in and welcomes them to the community, and it has a huge impact. It's immeasurable, just this one weekend this conference can have on a local family to see everything that this community can actually do to support each other.
Knowing that there's an organization out there that is proactive, not only to find a treatment one day, but hopefully a cure, made us feel at home and at peace, knowing that someday, and some people behind the scenes are fighting to find this treatment or cure.
So the Woodruff Foundation, they've actually supported over $270,000 to the SMA community. And a lot of it is supporting the research, supporting these efforts to make the new drugs and get them into the clinical trials. So what we've seen over the last 4 years is these trials, these tests of the new drugs advance, move through these clinical trial phases. We've also seen the number of these drugs expand. We were just starting with 1 or 2 back 4 years ago. We're at the point now where we actually have 7 new drugs in development for SMA. That's where we are right now today. We have 7 new drugs that are being designed for the disease. They're designed to correct these causes that we did the early research on, to correct the cause. They're now in clinical trials. What we've also seen is not just the number expanding, but these trials have been going successfully. So over this 4 years, we've got to the point now where we're not at the beginning, we're not at these early stages, we're actually at the end with some of these drugs. They've reached the final stage of testing. One drug has actually gone all the way through, finished the clinical trials, and we're actually at this point where we're talking to the government, to the FDA, asking for approval. That's one of those changes that you can mark off and say, progress. Something has happened. We're making progress. We're moving towards what we ultimately want. We're not there yet, but it is a success. It's something to take away and say, we're moving forward. We're not just standing in place. This isn't something where we're spinning our wheels. And actually, it's the opposite. Over the last 4 years, the progress, the speed that we've seen is just amazing. And it's something that we're getting so close now. So it's actually coming up on 4 years now, this event that we're at tonight. This is the 4th anniversary. So over 4 years, the Miller McNeil Woodruff Foundation's been supporting our efforts on the research front, and then also actually supporting families over the last few years, actually helping local families here participate in some of the events that we put on around the country.
Well, when Patrick and Meredith said they wanted to start his foundation, it was to help with SMA, but never ever forget Miller. None of us want to forget Miller. We had him for such a short time, and he made such an impact on all of our lives that we didn't ever want him to be forgotten. The event, Cupcakes and Cocktails, celebrating not only his birthday, but where we're going and what we've done for the fight against SMA, and the awareness that has been brought about by that is amazing. You know, his logo with the 5 peaks. I'm driving down the street one day and stopped at a stoplight, and I hear a kid yelling, "I'm with Miller." And I roll my window down, and there's a little boy sitting next to me in the car saying, I know about Miller. I go to Elmwood, and we do the Miller's Market every year, and I'm with Miller. And so, you know, it gives you chills.